Studying in a foreign place might seem like a bizarre concept to a lot of us, but for a lot of the world, it is a reality. And interestingly enough, there's been an insidious trend that is growing in the United States, and that is that the fact that international students are actually more likely to cheat on exams and homework than domestic students. In fact, according to a lot of sources, such as the Wall Street Journal, Daily Mail, and the International Business Times, they have stated that international students are up to 5 times more likely to cheat on an exam than a domestic student. So in this speech, I'd like to take some time to go over some possible reasons as to why they might cheat more than domestic students. So in my research, I've gone through some historical and sociocultural reasons as to why they might be more inclined to cheating. And I found 3 poignant things that I thought stuck out to me. So the first were cultural differences between their cultures and the United States culture. The pressure to perform well, especially under stress and other exam situations. And the definition of cheating, because everyone has their own kind of definition of it. So, the purpose of this speech is to appropriate information and to get a better understanding of how cheating works in terms of the psychological state. So for the purpose of this speech, actually, I'll be generalizing this speech to Chinese students, because according to CNN, more than 1/4 of the students that are international are in fact of Chinese origin. So for the overwhelming bulk of all students, they are mostly Chinese, and as such, I will generalize this speech to them. So according to the Chicago Policy Review, China actually outperforms the rest of the world in terms of standardized scores. So the SAT, the ACT, etc., China actually outperforms the rest of the world. And as such, Chinese students might feel like they are inclined to do better in general, and that leads to stress at an early age. So amongst that, there are other factors too, like living in rural areas and not having enough resources, and a lot of China is rural, and also not having as strong of teacher-student relationships as we might have in the United States. So for example, when we're younger here, we have more intimate bonds with our teachers, whereas in China, they might be more separated. And that leads to an interesting point in that a lot of studies have shown through and through that having relationships with your teachers lead to a more stable stress state and to leading to a generally more academic setting. So what's especially interesting is that according to a lot of admissions boards across the United States universities, they've actually caught international students having faked transcripts, having forged signatures, having forged essays, and all the like. And in fact, as you can see up here, it says that 10% of essays and of transcripts have actually been faked, and that's like just what we know. And an upwards of a potential 90% of recommendation letters could be possibly faked. So that goes to show that it could be a possible difference between the admissions and educational systems of the United States versus China. So for example, in the United States, typically we have to go through SAT testing, ACT testing, and then write essays and go through interviews to get a glimpse of our overall character and see if we fit into a society there in the university. Whereas in China, it could typically just be that one exam and there are no other substantial factors. And that drives a lot of stress for Chinese students because they have to do really well on one exam. And that could lead to a lot of potential other differences as to why in the US and China there are different systems. So for example, in China, because of this difference in this rift in our societies and our systems, there are actually third-party systems and companies that will literally apply to universities in America as a Chinese student, and they'll do the forging and the transcript faking and write these fake recommendation letters. And Chinese families will pay upwards of $20,000 to see their student get into a top-tier school, which they otherwise would not have gotten into because of their low lacking merits. So, according to the Wall Street Journal, as prosecutors actually questioned students that were caught cheating and that were international, they have found that a lot of students will cheat more if they are less proficient in English. And as such, a lot of them do not understand what the word plagiarism might mean. Because in the United States, we've all been warned against plagiarism as a very big thing, but overseas it might be a different thing. So some students might not view it as cheating, more so as sharing. So there have been a lot of different things that I have found, but I think that one thing that stood out to me especially was that a lot of students just claim that they're feeling burnt out. And feeling burnt out is definitely an issue that everyone can feel. I mean, I'm studying neuroscience and French, and for me, if someone were to ask me on any given day if I was feeling burnt out, I'd probably say, yeah, I'm feeling burnt out because everyone gets tired of the rigorous studies. But when asked, King Wen Fen of the University of California, Davis, who is the overviewer supervisor of the Chinese Student Association, when asked about the cheating and why it happens, he said that it is most likely just because the students feel burnt out, because they have felt so much stress all of their life, and now they're in the United States and they realize that they can cheat and get by and get good grades and not to try as much. And that speaks volumes because a lot of them are just feeling too stressed and they want to relax and live their lives and see what they were missing. And that resonates to a lot of people. But in conclusion, I want to say that there have been three things that I think are the main talking points as to why cheating happens. And of course, it is having differing educational systems and their pros and cons as to how application works outside of their borders, the cultural differences on what cheating really entails as opposed to quote unquote sharing, and the feeling of being burnt out in general, as many of us can understand that. It really is a fascinating realm to wander, the mind of a university student trying to make it through in life. And as we all know, each person has their own sets of morals and integrities, and I think that it is through understanding and really trying to find these social cultural differences that we can find out where the balance of these boundaries truly lie. Thank you.